Good afternoon. In the summer of 2011, more than 2 years ago, millions of dollars in suspected drug proceeds were seized from the back of a tractor trailer headed to Mexico. That truck was packed full of sandwich wrappers. And with that, what became known as Operation $5 Footlong was launched. Shortly after that period in the summer of 2011, specifically October of 2011, agents with the DEA and the Metro Drug Task Force here in Marion County opened the door of a warehouse on the west side of Indianapolis and discovered more than 5 tons of marijuana. It was the largest federal drug bust in our city's history and among the largest this state has ever seen. At the time, 4 defendants were charged. They were charged with participating in a drug trafficking scheme that stretched from Mexico to Indianapolis. Today, I can announce that what happened 2 years ago was just the beginning of an investigation, not the end. Early this morning, federal agents executed 17 federal and state search warrants in Indianapolis, most of which targeted people and property on the near west side of our city. A total of 21 defendants have been charged today in federal and state court for their alleged roles in a massive drug trafficking organization. 16 of those charged defendants have been brought into custody. Preliminary information on the search warrants executed today indicates that seizures included approximately 100 pounds of marijuana, more than 1.5 pounds of methamphetamine, weapons, including 7 firearms, more than 24 vehicles, which are believed to have been used in the drug trafficking scheme, and between $80,000 to $100,000 in suspected drug proceeds. In addition, documents unsealed today indicate that over the last 2 years, agents have seized more than 15,000 pounds of marijuana related to this organization, as well as cash seizures of nearly $5 million. Today marks the dismantlement of a significant drug trafficking organization operating in and around Marion County, Indiana. Finally, as many of you are aware, an arrest warrant was served this morning on Beachview Drive in Indianapolis. Law enforcement officers were confronted by an armed suspect who ignored verbal commands to lower his weapon, reportedly pointing his gun at the detectives. The suspect was shot and pronounced dead at the scene. Standing with me today is Carmel Police Chief Tim Green, who will in a moment be able to comment further on that incident. Before I turn things over to all of my partners, though, I would like to take a moment as the United States Attorney to applaud the excellent work, the collaborative work, the cooperative work of all of the many agencies involved in making today the success that it has been in dismantling this sophisticated and complex drug trafficking organization. The excellent work of my federal partner with the DEA, certainly the Metro Drug Task Force here in Marion County, the Hamilton County Drug Task Force, and many, many local law enforcement agencies who have been intimately involved in this operation. As the last month has made clear to those of us in this city, and as this morning reaffirmed, the people who make up our law enforcement community go out every day, put their lives on the line to make this a better place to live, a better place to work, a safer place to raise your family. They deserve our thanks, not just on days like today, but every day. This case has been complicated from the start. It has stretched across city, state, and national borders. But thanks to the tireless efforts and the work of those who stand beside me, we can say today that another dangerous criminal enterprise, criminal organization, has been dismantled here in the city of Indianapolis. And that is a good day. It's my pleasure to introduce now the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration here in Indianapolis, my partner, Dennis Wishart. Dennis?
Thank you, Joe. First of all, I want to thank Joe and his office and Josh Minkler and Melanie Konauer for their leadership. Rick Frank and Marion County Prosecutor Terry Curry, Bill Laura and IMPD, just like Joe said, and the other great agencies up here, and Tim Green from Carmel. Cases like this, organizations that are this big, that span all the way from Mexico, you don't work them by one agency. You work them in a partnership, teamwork, long hours, long nights, long days, and that's what this case represents. It also illustrates the danger all of us face every day when we're out there chasing these Mexican drug trafficking organizations that set up shop in Indiana and other parts of America, just how dangerous they are and how often people risk their life to take these organizations out. Thank you very much, Joe.
Representing both the Department of Public Safety, the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, and therefore as well Metro Drug, I'm pleased to introduce Bill Laura, Deputy Chief for Investigations with the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. Bill?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. I just want to reiterate what has already been said. This is a good day, but it's also, we're very fortunate that 2 officers go home today. They go home safely. And that's the fortunate part of today and the most exciting part for me. However, I do want to emphasize that this regional approach of collaboration between all our partners, our state, federal, and local partners, this is how we get work done here. This is what IMPD is striving for, to continue this partnership. This has been a long-standing great partnership as far as Metro Drug and working with these other agencies here in central Indiana. Today was a good day as U.S. Attorney Hogsett indicated, and we are fortunate to get these criminals off our streets and get these drugs off our streets. I want to thank the agency's representative here, and I also want to thank all the agents, the officers that were involved in this operation today for their fine work and professionalism. IMPD will be the lead agency on investigating the death investigation over on Beachway Drive. I won't speak to that investigation at this point as it's ongoing, but we will have additional information made available later this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Representing the Internal Revenue Service, Supervisory Special Agent Chris Hoffner is here. Chris?
IRS Criminal Investigation is here today, standing beside our federal, state, and local partners. IRS Criminal Investigation continues to provide financial expertise in these types of investigations, and we will continue to do what we do best, which is to follow the money. Today's actions demonstrate our collective efforts to enforce the law and ensure the public trust. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Marion County Metro Drug has been mentioned several times, and representing them as well as the Marion County Prosecutor's Office is Rick Frank. Rick?
I serve a dual role as the Director of the Metropolitan Drug Task Force and also a Deputy Prosecutor with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. My boss, Terry Curry, is in Fort Wayne today, so I'm representing him as well. Just to give you some basic facts on the state people who were charged. We charged 5 defendants with C felony conspiracy to commit dealing in marijuana as a Class C felony. In Indiana, that carries a penalty of 2 to 8 years. And we charged 7 defendants at the state level with conspiracy to commit dealing in cocaine as a Class A felony. That carries a penalty sentence of 20 to 50 years at the state level. And the rest of the defendants were charged at the federal level, and I believe Josh Minkler will speak to that. Just by way from the Marion County Prosecutor's Office standpoint, I think this investigation just is another example of the communication and the partnership that has been set up between Attorney General Joe Hogsett and my boss Terry Curry that sort of sends the message that if you deal drugs in Marion County or in the central Indiana area, we might not get you tomorrow or next month, but we're eventually going to catch up with you, and we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law at whatever level that might be. So I want to echo all the sentiments up here. Cases like this just don't happen overnight, and the amount of investigation and work from several different agencies put into this is immense, and the detectives did an outstanding job, and it showed by finality this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. This truly is the new face of criminal enterprise and criminal organization, and the fact that all of these agencies have come together to collaborate over a 2-year period of time to bring us to days like today speak volumes. Representing the Carmel Police Department, I'm very pleased to have with us a partner at the local level, the police chief, Carmel Police, Tim Green. Chief.
Thank you. I'd like to reinforce a lot of what we've heard today, but before I do that, some of you may know, but many of you don't. We've been part of the Metro Drug Task Force from Carmel Police Department since 1988, so we've had a long-standing full-time relationship working with Indianapolis on drug issues because we all know they cross the borders. And in Hamilton County, Carmel Police Department, Fishers Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, in Boone County, in Lebanon and Zionsville, we constantly work together with Indianapolis, so it's not unusual for us to be involved in this by any means. It reinforces, though, that these detectives are out here every day doing this job, and at 6 o'clock this morning doing this job, faced with what they're faced with. And we had 2 veteran narcotics detectives in this residence who did what they needed to do when they were confronted with an armed individual. And as I said earlier, the Indianapolis Police Department is handling that investigation. Very proud of the officers involved here. They do the job day in and day out, and they put their lives on the line, obviously, from what we saw this morning. So again, reinforce every bit of what you heard today. We'll continue our relationship from Hamilton County and from Carmel with Indianapolis because that's the way to do this business. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Last but certainly not least, at the very beginning of Operation $5 Footlong was the First Assistant United States Attorney, Josh Minkler, who still serves in that capacity, and along with Melanie Konauer, whose name has been mentioned, will be the lead federal prosecutors in this matter. So to talk about the federal side of today's activities, the First Assistant United States Attorney, Josh Minkler.
Good afternoon. Melanie Konauer, who is the lead prosecutor in this case, is presently in court prosecuting the 8 individuals who were arrested today. There were 10 individuals named in this federal criminal complaint. That brings the number of individuals federally charged out of this organization, $5 Footlong, to 25 individuals federally charged since 2011. This organization, as was mentioned, had access to and was seized over 15,000 pounds of marijuana. The street value of that is amazing when you try to think of it. That's $30 million almost worth of marijuana. Seizures in this case total now almost $5 million in currency proceeds. They have also expanded, as is demonstrated in the complaints which were unsealed today, to the distribution of methamphetamine and cocaine. As the United States Attorney said, this is the face of organized crime today. A large group that is well-financed, that is heavily armed, and that is violent. And so I just want to commend the work of not only the DEA, but in particular the Metro Drug Task Force, who has been our partner throughout this investigation and has been our partner through many years. The Metro Drug Task Force is made up of local law enforcement agencies from all around this community, including the Carmel Police Department. And without all of these local agencies connecting the dots and putting these organizations together, we could not eliminate these large drug trafficking organizations. And I think today, because of all their help, we can say a large-scale drug trafficking organization, the face of organized crime today, that brings violence to this community, has been eliminated. Thank you.
Questions?
Can anybody speak to, was there a typical way that they operated, a standard way of operating MO?
The typical way was they brought large amounts of marijuana from Mexico. They distributed it throughout the Midwest, and they took the money back to Mexico in trucks. Most times it was concealed, but this is a very typical way that large drug-scale trafficking organizations are working. They have set up shop all over the Midwest, and this one set up shop in Indianapolis. But the distribution activities went all over the Midwest, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, but this was their area. But what we found out is what they were bringing is the drugs from Mexico and sending the money back there.
Why did they set up shop here, do you think?
I think it's a convenient location in the Midwest, and that was a mistake they made because now they've been eliminated. They probably had a sense of security that they would not be found out, but they were, and thanks to the good work of these agencies, they've been eliminated.
As part of that distribution, what type of violent crime, you said that this is helping eliminate crime in the area, what type of violent crime stem from these distributions?
These are heavily armed drug traffickers. If you don't pay them, they can't resort to the courts. And I think as we found out this morning, if they're armed, they won't hesitate to use those firearms. I mean, they have large amounts of money, they have large amounts of drugs, and they have to protect that from rivals, as we found out, from police actions, and they won't hesitate to use firearms to do that. That's what we found out.
Are you investigating them in any kind of murders or assaults or anything like that?
We can't go comment on that at this point.
Most of the defendants arrested, are they from Mexico?
They're Mexican descent, yes.
After 2011, when the charges were filed, did it not slow them down, or did you guys kind of watch them? Did they come back? I mean, they obviously lost some guys at that point.
They lost some guys, but they replaced them, and we continue to follow, connect the dots through the work of these people to find out everybody in this organization. So hopefully they could not start again. We wanted to eliminate this organization, so we wanted to take them from the top to the bottom. And what you commonly have to do is start with a large seizure and keep working your way up until you can finally eliminate everybody that's involved.
With the search warrants that were served, I didn't see the Beachview address listed in the documents that we have. Can you tell me what that specific warrant was for, what you guys were looking for in that Beachview apartment?
Those were actually, they were actually two state, you probably just have the federal search warrants. I don't know if we've given out the state search warrants yet. If we haven't, we will. But those were actually the two state search warrants. And they were very similar. They modeled similar very much what the federal warrants were. There was drug trafficking involved out of those particular apartments, identified at an earlier date, and continuing surveillance showed that those people were still there. So there was two apartments that were served out there pretty close to each other.
Do we know if the person who was killed was a suspect in the state or in this big overall federal investigation?
I don't know where we are on the names. It was one of the defendants that was charged in the state charging information, yes. I don't know.
Lastly, I hadn't heard it confirmed. Was it a Carmel officer who exchanged in the gunfire and shot that suspect?
Yes.
Were you guys, the actual suspect that was shot and killed today, was he running the operation out of that apartment, or was he just living there and that's just was his home? I mean, just trying to understand that. I mean, neighbors obviously asking those questions of us today.
He was a distributor in the organization. Drugs and drug money was found in that apartment today. In Beachview address.
Chief Bree, could you just comment on how your officers are doing and what their status is with the department right now? We have a lot of support mechanisms within our profession and within a department. And the officers are doing well. I think they have a lot of support going on. Currently, as standard procedure, they'll be placed on administrative duties pending this investigation. But I spoke with them earlier today, and they're doing good.
Multiple shots fired or one shot fired?
Again, the Indianapolis Police Department is handling the investigation into that. So,
Joe, none of these people could have operated here and made the money they made had they not had a strong customer base. Can you speak to that?
Well, the plain fact is that Indianapolis in the metro area has grown exponentially over the last 20 to 30 years with more people. You see more of this activity. There is no question that what this collaborative effort has done over the course of the last 2 years, as has been identified earlier by several speakers, is eliminate one organization that has been responsible for an enormous amount of drugs coming to Marion County And as I think Josh identified, it's pretty simple. Drugs move north and east. Money moves west and south. When you are able to take in a collaborative way the efforts that were taken by law enforcement agencies this morning and dismantle a very sophisticated and violent drug trafficking organization, Marion County, there is no question that this is a safer community this afternoon than it was at 5:59 a.m. this morning.
Is this the end of the operation then? You don't think that there's going to be any more popping up that are connected with these group of individuals?
We don't comment on the nature of ongoing investigations. Suffice it to say, from a retrospect perspective, this has been an investigation culminated today after 2 years of intense work. At the federal level, we're now back up and running. And we're fully staffed, finally. This is the first day that the federal shutdown has ended. The point being that at the local level, at the state level, and at federal level, all of the law enforcement agencies represented here, the prosecutor's offices, both in Marion County and in the United States Attorney's Office, we will show up to work tomorrow morning at 8:30 and begin just another day. If someone wants to take the place of these individuals, they ultimately will face the same circumstances.
Would you have served the search warrants earlier if the federal government wasn't shut down?
No, the federal government shutdown certainly didn't make anything easier, but it did not affect this operation. Thank you all for coming.